Thank you, Alexi, for this wonderful portrait that shows the urgency of the work that you're doing. It's much more than a laureate speech can do. Your Royal Highnesses, Excellencies, European Cultural Foundation, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It is a significant, highly symbolic trias of cities that is in the center of today's ceremony. Athens, Brussels, and Kiev. Brussels is the synonym for the European Union and its capital. The Attic Athens is the model for European democracy. The present Athens, though, is the Beelzebub in the eyes of the neoclassical economists and the austerity fantasies that govern today's European financial policies. Kiev? It's not only one of the oldest cities in Eastern Europe, located at a crucial crossing of conflicting cultural areas and geopolitical spheres of interest. It, for almost a millennium, has been one of the cultural anchor cities of Europe, which is mainly forgotten in this conflict. Think about Malevich, think about Gogol, think about all the people that inseminated, all the artists that inseminated the European cultural debate. The present Kiev, though, is the capital of a state in warfare, a state put into a crisis that challenges the post-war European project, a project founded in the West under the unifying pressure of a bipolar order erected in Yalta, Crimea, Ukraine. What unites these cities? What divides them? It is the project of Europe that unites them, and it's the visions of this project that divides them. You, Vasil, Alexei, Oksana, Natalia, Sergei, Nazari, Anna, Yuzin, Alesia, who represent the Visual Culture Research Center in Kiev, and whom I'm honored to call you a friend. You work and live amidst this multi-layered and traumatized present. You, for the 8 years, have been realizing projects envisioning another Europe, a Europe that is negotiating the antagonisms of its cultures and societies and is skeptical against the all-unifying powers of economy alone. You have been fighting for this together with your fellow citizens on Maidan, we just saw that, to get rid of the oligarchic dukedoms and self-determine the future of your country. You have established the Open University of Maidan during the protests, giving theoretical background and practical advice for this imagined future, always trying to be integrative and even involving the voices of the rightist provocateurs into debates. But already when you founded the VCRC in 2008, when the euphoria of the Orange Revolution of 2004 already had made place for a corrupted political reality, you made another reality visible, the reality of political prisoners and the reality of the working poor in your projects. Always combining this with a vivid intellectual debate, imagining an enlightened European horizon. Artists and intellectual workers, you are rooted in the social reality that surrounds you. You ongoing reflect this reality at the same time as you modify the reality through your projects. Let me just point at a few of them we've just seen. Be it organizing large-scale events like Thinking Ukraine, which was probably the biggest gathering of intellectuals last May discussing the geopolitical consequences of the conflict. This was later deepened in a series of talks between revolution and war. Be it exhibitions like Lockout, displaying the urgency of labor issues in your country, where labor is rare, or of the Draftsman Congress in the National Museum. Or be it in the superstructure exhibition dealing with the built remains of the Soviet Empire and the colonial as well as emancipatory forms and forces sedimented in them. It is, to use a very old-fashioned phrase, a dialectical work you are engaged in, one that has to be cultivated and nourished and made subject to constant critical self-reflection. In all of these, you connect discussions and debates about reality, short-term and long-term possibilities of social and political transformation. You connect concrete action, of which exposition talks and publications are just one mode. You connect knowledge with moral and political support, since such work is under ongoing negative criticism in the Ukraine, in Russia, and unfortunately in Europe from those who do not share the same objectives. You, Vasil, have suffered personally from this when you were beaten and hurt by nationalist battalions in Kiev last year. You treat democracy as a rhetoric, democracy as a realization, and democracy as possibility. You demonstrate that the rhetoric is dangerous and the realization very limited and unbalanced. But you argue that democracy is possible, and it does exist as a possibility. Maybe precisely, as you say, because the European system is at the border of a structural crisis. The polis of Athens excluded the barbaroi, the barbarians, stereotyped them as the luxurious, cruel, and politically unable to govern themselves. The European Union and the Schengen Agreement tends to exclude the ones that work hard for its economy or risk their lives to be part of it. In a time where a growing number of European citizens voice with much nationalist and xenophobic shrillness against them, the agora you create is more needed than ever, and not just in Ukraine. What, as you have formulated in one of your last papers, what if one would look at the trias Athens, Brussels, and Kiev from a different perspective? I quote, "The Maidan movement delivered that political movements and citizens in Europe, what political movements and citizens in Europe itself lack. A strong belief in the idea of Europe as a vehicle for social transformation and progress. The citizens of Ukraine's society are constantly being told, though, to study Europe, often diminished to standardized set of measures focused on effectiveness and reforms. But, you say, what if we reverse this formula? Maybe Europe could learn from Ukraine in order to reinvent itself and to deal with its own political crisis? I think you're right. We must connect to have a chance. We must instigate transnational plural cultural narratives. It is an indispensable component of a common program, and your work at the VCRC is a role model for it. I congratulate you to your work, and I thank the jury for their decision. May your project succeed of contributing to building another Europe, far beyond the borders of the triangle Brussels, Athens, and Kiev.